What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Swing for the Fences MLB show here on the Run for Your Sports YouTube channel. Sunday morning, we've got a big day of sports ahead, and of course, we'll be talking all things baseball on this early show. What do we have? I believe a 9-game MLB slate. Looks like contests filling up quick, man, going. So if you guys want to get in there, maybe do that while we're talking. And we have, of course, 4-game NBA slate. I know members got treated to JSU Big T earlier this morning. Get to watch my Wolves close out the Suns to end the slate tonight. Going to be a fun day of sports, man, going bright and early here in the Denver.
Yeah, ready for the crazy sports day. I think NASCAR locks at like noon or 12:09 my time, but it's like everything's like within like 30 minutes of locking each other. So it'll be a bit hectic, but I've done some preparation on everything, ready to go. Excited for this slate, and baseball, basketball. It's gonna be a good day, right? Once noon hits, we're just gonna really be sitting around watching everything unfold. So that's kind of the nice part. It's not like while games are going on, you're gonna be like doing this and doing that. For the most part, sure, maybe you'll play some showdown and stuff like that, but it's definitely a nice day to kind of just sit around and watch sports. So I can't wait.
Yeah, it's one of those days you just got to keep your nose to the grindstone until you get through the locks, and then you can enjoy the day. I'm playing 150 on DraftKings with some higher buy-in stuff as well. Playing 50 lineups in the NBA playoff contest. Playing over at FanDuel. I thankfully don't have to get the NASCAR teams in. I'll be leaving those giblets to you. I don't need those that NASCAR money, but certainly busy on the NBA baseball fronts, and been up for a while, grinding this slate, and hopefully it ends up going well. It does kind of suck when you put in all the work and grind like this, and then everything kind of goes against you. But hopefully that won't be today. We will try to keep this show probably to an hour, maybe even slightly less, just so we can get to our own lineups and keep it moving. So with that, let's jump into the first game of the day. We'll go by the DraftKings order of games as always. There are it's a fast and furious baseball slate. Obviously, the NBA one much more spread out, but baseball going to be a quick one. We do start out in Baltimore. 85 degrees in Baltimore today, I believe. The warmest game they've seen all season there. We know that park can really shift, into more of a hitter's environment when the weather heats up. A little bit of wind blowing out to right center field as well. We've got Albert Suarez on the hill for Baltimore. I've actually played him in both of his starts so far, kind of a little bit of an out of nowhere, older type pitcher, but he's been really good through 2 starts, especially at the price point. Now, it did go from 4K to 6K to 8K today, so he's doubled in price over 2 or 3 starts, but I still do like him here. I mean, it's a matchup against Oakland, obviously a team that we want to target in general. Despite the weather, it's still a decent enough place to pitch. And Suarez, I'm kind of a believer in his in general. I don't love the 8K price tag, but I do think he's still in play. He'll go opposite Paul Blackburn, pitching for the A's, who's a solid arm. He's actually been pretty good this year, at least at run prevention. I could see that going the other way for him in this one. This Orioles team, not one I want to mess with, especially as a right-handed pitcher. So I'm on the Orioles side of this one, both pitching and hitting-wise. Probably not going to end up on too many A's bats. I don't mind mixing in specifically Lawrence Butler there at 2,200 leading off. He's a pretty decent talent, but not going crazy with the A's. I do really like the Orioles, especially on the hitting side. What about you, man? Going Orioles and A's to start us off here.
Yeah, I definitely like this game. I like the Baltimore side the most. I don't totally hate Oakland. Like, I think you could get away with playing Oakland stacks. But Baltimore's the clear spot. Like, it's one of those things. I think you're only getting to Oakland if you're like a 150 guy or you're playing like, MME more than like
they're super cheap. So if you do, there are some elite expensive bats. I think the clear best pitcher on the slate is expensive. So there is some justification for getting some of those Oakland guys in there.
Sure. I'm just saying it probably takes a lot of lineups to get there, right? That's all I knew with Oakland is the point I was getting at. Because I do like Suarez. I think he's not a bad play on both sites. And then listen, Blackburn's not someone I'm trying to play in DFS. You could make the case to not attack him. Listen, I think Baltimore is in play. I don't think Baltimore is one of the top stacks. I don't know if I'd put them like for sure in that like second tier. You maybe just put them in that second tier because they're Baltimore, right? They're just that good of a hitting team. We talked about it. They're going to be a wagon all year long. You look up and down this lineup: Henderson, Adley, O'Hearn, Santander, Mountcastle, Mullins, Cowser, Urias, and Mateo. That's a strong lineup. A guy like Mateo, who's, he can steal bases, he can hit home runs. I mean, he's in the 9-hole. It's a really good lineup, so you can't ignore them. I will definitely have them in MME. They won't be one of my top offenses by any means, but I think if you're MME, you have to have exposure to them against Paul Blackburn. And to be fair about this slate too, yeah, I'm not dying to attack Paul Blackburn, but like there's a lot of good pitchers on this slate in general. So I don't think you might have to take an offense that's an elite offense just against a pitcher that maybe you wouldn't attack on most slates.
Yeah, Blackburn does appear to have some pretty clear splits in two ways. One, not nearly as good against lefties, which does look like it could be a problem here. The first 4 hitters in the Orioles lineup swing from the left side, and 6 of the first 7 swing from the left. And Blackburn also has typically been much better pitching in Oakland than he has on the road. Now he's got to go into a warm Baltimore environment. Yeah, I do like the Orioles quite a bit here. I think they're going to do some damage, and I think he could come early against Paul Blackburn. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Orioles get off to a very hot start on this first game of the slate. Let's go on to the next game. Another really good offense here. One that's been, I guess, sputtering a little bit. The Atlanta Braves been somewhat disappointing, namely Ronald Acuna, who has 6 RBIs on the season. I saw some tweets yesterday. Ceddanne Rafaela for the Red Sox, I know, who helped a bunch of RPS people win some money, had 7 RBIs yesterday, a single day number surpassing Acuna's season total, which is pretty insane. Acuna's definitely cost me a chunk of change in the baseball season here in the early go, and I'm still sticking with him. Wish his price would come down a little bit. I don't think that's going to happen. It's going to take a little bit longer. Hopefully it never happens, because I'll just keep playing Acuna. Braves hit some balls hard yesterday, just didn't quite get him over the wall. 80 degrees in Atlanta. There is some winds blowing in, which you could tell made an effect on the ball traveling in Atlanta. But nevertheless, I still am betting on this elite offense. I still think at the end of the year, this will be the best offense in baseball, the Atlanta Braves. They're still healthy and all that stuff. So, yeah, I'll play the long game with the Atlanta Braves. I do really like them tonight. Maybe my top offense on the slate. We'll get to that at the end of the show, but they're certainly on the short list. We've got 2 of, in my opinion, the worst, quote unquote, stuff pitchers in baseball going in this one. Right-handers Ben Lively, Bryce Elder. Neither of these guys have an impressive arsenal of pitches, and I like the offenses on both sides of this one, including the Guardians offense. Bryce Elder, I know he pitched well in that first game against Miami, but hey, that's Miami. I'm not a believer in Elder, and I know Lively has actually been shockingly good through 2 starts, both against Boston, 7 strikeouts in both of those games. If you're just going by the on-paper results, he would look to be a pretty damn good pitcher. Not a believer in Ben Lively either, so I do prefer the Braves side of this one offensively, but I like the Guardians too, man. They can put up some numbers in a hurry. I think they're an underrated offense. Josh Naylor having a giant breakout season. We know what Jose Ramirez can do. Just a stack that can put together hits, steals. Maybe you get the long ball at some point. So neither of these pitchers are on my radar, and then I do like both of these offenses quite a bit. What about you, Mango?
Yeah, you're talking about Ronald Acuna and his struggles, DC. Well, the attorney of law, the green polo, he did draft him. So maybe there's some correlation there of why Ronald Acuna is struggling. I'm just saying, but we'll have to see.
But by the way, the team name of my main event team where I drafted with Siege is Attorneys at Law, which, by the way, sitting on top of the leaderboard in that league, Siege down there suffering in 10th place. So had to get that little brag in since you brought him up.
Yes, you love to see it. That's a great name for it. This game, I distracted myself. The Atlanta Braves are going against Lively. You got Elder on the other side. You did say winds blowing in, right? I definitely don't mind the Braves. The Braves are definitely going to be an offense that I think you have to like. You definitely don't fear not playing Acuna, but it is going to flip at some point, right? I do know when it starts to flip, I'm going to be on it. That's what I'm definitely going to jump on for sure. I'm just, the second I see it, I'm just going to be like, okay, we're riding it out. MME wise, when I ran stuff earlier, I was getting a lot of Acuna on FanDuel specifically. Let's see on DraftKings, just because I just got some of my numbers plugged in. Yeah, I'm still getting a bunch of Acuna, not surprising at all. I assume the Braves are going to be one of the teams that everyone's all over today, right? Not that you can't play them. I think there's a lot of different ways to go a pitcher, but Braves are clearly going to be an offense that people like. I think we have to like them here. So yeah. Do you think any of these Guardians could be interesting though, DC, against Elder? I guess with the wind blowing in, it's not as exciting, but I wouldn't completely ignore the Guardians here as mini stacks, just because I think some of their prices could be kind of encouraging here, right? Bo Naylor at 3.8, we know he's got some power. Will Brennan, David Fry for 3.7. I think Guardians as a minis is in play, and then I think the Braves are definitely one of the top offenses on the slate today. Would you agree?
100%. Yeah, I'm definitely higher on the Guardians than I think the people will be. Again, part of it's a bet against Bryce Elder, but I've been higher on the Guardians in general, and will remain so. And then, yeah, I think just a underrated offense. It is one that I do think you want to go, not necessarily on one-offs with the Guardians, just because they kind of need to do it as a team with a little bit of lack of power there, but guys like Josh Naylor, Jose Ramirez changing that narrative a little bit. So certainly in on the Guardians. I'll be betting on the Braves again. And I think we see this one go over the 9 total. I think we're going to see some runs in Atlanta this afternoon. At least I'll be hoping so for my personal lineups. Let's get to another interesting game. Blue Jays and Dodgers. Looks like something of a bullpen game for the Dodgers. Michael Grove scheduled, I believe, to be the opener in this one. He hasn't pitched in a while, and he did kind of come up as a traditional starter. So I don't know, maybe he can go 2 or 3 innings, but I don't think much beyond that. He'll go up against what looks like a pretty standard Blue Jays lineup, and he will go opposite Mr. Kevin Gausman, one of the bigger disappointing pitchers, DFS-wise, season-long-wise, normal baseball-wise, whatever you want to call it. Still sitting with an ERA over 5. He has been better in the last 2 starts, but still not great. I mean, just 2 strikeouts over 6 2/3 innings last time out against Kansas City, over 99 pitches. So it's not like he was limited workload-wise. And he gets a Dodgers team that I've got them as 2nd or 3rd best team so far in the league against right-handed pitchers. I mean, Betts has been off to just an incredible start. Ohtani just smashing baseballs, it seems like, every single day. We know what Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy can do. Will Smith, we'll see if he's in there, but this is not a matchup that I like for Gausman. I don't think this will actually prove true, but our friends over at Sabre do have him as one of the highest owned pitchers on the slate. If that's so, even at that 8K price tag, I'm going to look elsewhere. I really haven't played Gausman much at all this season, and I really have much desire, frankly, to pick on this Dodgers offense right now. Again, I don't think we've seen the lineup for them yet, but I would assume they're not going to run out anything. Oh, there it is. So Betts, Ohtani, Freeman, Teoscar, Muncy. Yeah, so they got all their dudes in there. Yeah, give me some Dodgers bats in this one as a contrarian stack, man. Going. I mean, yeah, I'll take a super low-owned bats, Ohtani, Freeman against Gausman, who hasn't been great. Why not, right? I think they could absolutely crush. So I'm in on the Dodgers offense. Blue Jays offense, one that I really haven't bought into all that much this year, a few times, including the time they got no hit by Ronel Blanco. But for the most part, I've been off them, maybe because of that specific game. I haven't wanted to go back to too much. And I think that'll mostly be the case for me here, although they do get assuming it is Ryan Yarbrough who throws a decent amount of innings in this one, which I think it probably will be, that is a pretty good matchup for most of these Blue Jays. So maybe I'm a little too low on them, but I like the Dodgers side of this one, despite, a matchup against obviously a big name player.
Yeah, I mean, I think Gausman will have ownership, DC. I'm not saying he's the highest on the slate, but I do think people play him because if they just blindly look at projections, well, projections might push him, right? If you look at whatever site you use, let's say I know on Saber, it's being pushed a lot. And the reason why the ownership's up there is because they haven't projected really well. Now, that could change, okay? To be fair, it's 9 a.m., 2.5 hours before lock. It's just the morning slate, sometimes it takes them time to make adjustments on things. It could just be a lot of raw stuff in there. I do think Gausman will have some ownership. I think the Dodgers are a great contrarian stack that people are not going to be on, right? There's just no chance they're going to really look to play them. So I'm in on this team. I think the Dodgers are a really good one. I don't really need to get to the Blue Jays. We talk about this a lot. A lot of the bullpen games I just don't target. If I am targeting a bullpen game, it's usually because I think the offense just in such an elite spot and it feels like people aren't really attacking it. And it's always like slate dependent too. You could argue with having a lot of decent pitching on this slate that attacking a bullpen game is not terrible, but I just don't think this is the spot to do it, especially someone like, old Dave Roberts who likes to, change every pitcher he can. So I'm just looking at playing the Dodgers here. Let's just see what the lineup is. Sometimes they have some bad lineups.
It's their normal lineup.
Okay, the normal. I just want to make sure, just because, listen, if you do take out one of the top 5 between Betts, Ohtani, Freeman, Hernandez, and Max Muncy, that bottom of the order is kind of brutal, right?
Yeah.
So that Dodgers lineup can look ugly some days, where when you only see 3 of those studs in there, and if you take one of them out, you're including Max Muncy or Hernandez as the stud, you could just see outs happen a little bit quicker, just more 1, 2, 3 innings, and that's something you don't want, right? And that can just absolutely destroy your stack. So lineup looks good though. I'm definitely in on some of the Dodgers.
Yeah, just to kind of read it. So Betts and I think I said this, Betts and Muncy with really good BVP against Kevin Gausman. And then you can also run on Gausman. He gave up 18 stolen bases in 2022, 21 stolen bases last year, and so far this season, base runners are 4 for 4 against him. So specifically Betts and Ohtani, man. I know people don't like to do the 2-man stack, but it's hard to get them all. Those two are the ones that I really want, the 2 swinging the best bats, the 2 guys with, the stolen base potential. They hit right next to each other at the top of the lineup. And yeah, I want to get as many of that little tiny mini stack. Betts and Ohtani, I think are going to do a lot of damage here against Gausman and the Blue Jays.
DC, by the way, when you use an optimizer and you're building teams out, it's hard to get Betts and Ohtani together. One thing I noticed yesterday when I was running teams was I wasn't getting a lot of Judge and Soto together. Now Soto didn't crush. Judge was the one who did the best, and there were other good options, right? But when I go through, I like to make sure, if I'm handpicking teams out, I'll try to find a team that has both of them. Sometimes if you just run a Dodgers 5-man, you might run it and it has Ohtani and just the 4 dudes at the bottom. And listen, playing guys in the bottom of the lineup, it's a good thing to do. It's not bad. But when you play all 4 and then 1 stud, it's just not super viable in my opinion. So if you are playing the Dodgers, there's a good chance I'm going to want to pair it up with some of these cheap pitchers. If I play a Dodgers stack, it's likely not going to be a Tariq Skubal with a Marcus Stroman, and because those guys are both expensive, and then just all the cheap guys. So that's one thing you really have to watch when using an optimizer and looking at just very expensive offenses.
I think in some cases, this would be, I wouldn't do this for most teams on most slates, but you could make a rule, and I think I might do it myself, where if I have Betts, I must also play Ohtani and vice versa, right? I always want them together because it just makes a lot of sense, right? Betts gets on base, he steals. Now Ohtani's got to do something, and all of a sudden, if that's a home run or maybe just drives him in with a single, I do think just the 2 of them are very correlated. And they're going to be so low owned that you don't necessarily want a ton of either or both of them. So yeah, why not on the 10% of lineups that I might play them? Why not pair them together on all 10%? I do think that makes some sense to me, and also probably isn't something that most people are looking to do. So always looking to find little edges like that. Obviously, can use the Saber Sim tools to make kind of fun rules like that. So if I remember, which is there's no guarantee, got a lot going on this morning, but I might try to get that rule in there on my 150 on DraftKings. Let's get to the next game on the slate, KC and Detroit. I'm pulling up the weather here. My initial run of it when I looked at 5 a.m. this morning was not to be too concerned with it, but I will pull it back up to give a take. I know some people are asking about that in the chat. Pitching wise, this game could end up being a pretty popular one. We've got two good pitchers going. Michael Wacha, solid, I think a little bit underrated arm for the Kansas City Royals. He's pitched pretty well this year, and he'll go up against maybe the guy who's been one of the best for sure overall pitchers on the season. Tarek Skubal, no surprise there, was one of my early or preseason Cy Young picks. That's looking pretty good at the moment. And yeah, I mean, he's just been awesome. There's, I don't have to elaborate a ton more on the numbers. He's been consistent. Strikeout upside is there. Still hasn't had a double-digit strikeout game, but those are definitely coming for Tarek Skubal if he can stay healthy. And he gets, not a perfect matchup maybe against the Kansas City Royals, but certainly a good enough one where you don't need to fade Tarek Skubal or anything like that. One bat in particular has done well against Skubal, Salvador Perez, no surprise. Got 3 home runs, I think, in 18 at bats, something like that against Skubal. So he is an interesting one-off from the Royals, but certainly not going too crazy, stacking up the Royals or anything like that. Would way rather stack against, a Gaussman for sure, or even a couple other pitchers that we'll talk about as we go along. So, I'm not really in on the bats on either side here. I do think Skubal is a very strong play. I do also think he's going to be higher owned than our friends over at Sabre think that he will be. I think Skubal is going to come in 40% plus is my guess with him. We shall see. But yeah, I think Skubal is going to be highly owned. I'll have plenty of Skubal too. I mean, I do think he is the best pitcher on this slate if we're just looking at, raw point total. And I think he could be the safest as well. So highest upside, highest floor, pretty nice combination. He is expensive. People are going to play him, but I do think he is a good play nevertheless. What about you, man, going Detroit and Kansas City?
Yeah, I like Skubal. I like Wacha too. One of the issues though, and before I get into the weather, I guess I'll just talk about the situations. Like, I'm not playing the bats, but Skubal's going to be higher owned. I agree 100% with that, DC. He's going to be way higher owned for sure. Wacha, I mean, I just think the matchup against Detroit is interesting, and he has upside, right? If you look against the White Sox, what did Michael Wacha do? I mean, dude, he put up, I think this is DK. Yeah, he put up 34 DK points against them. Wacha has the upside. He's a very wide range of outcomes pitcher, but I don't think he should be completely ignored when going up against this team like the Tigers. 8,700 is a little bit expensive, and there's other ones I'd rather get to, but if you're getting like a splash of him, don't X him out of your pool. But here's the big debate, DC. Do we X him out of the pool because of the weather? What do we do with that weather situation? I don't think we can genuinely make a decision right now.
I'll make it right now. This game's going to be fine.
Okay, so you think it's going to be fine. I just think we have to watch a little bit. That's all. Like, I think it could get shaky. And to be fair, there's a lot going on between NBA and MLB, and I just don't want people to forget. I would just make sure to circle back around like 30 minutes before the game just to check. But sounds like
I would do that with all lineups and all teams and stuff. But in terms of the weather, I would be very, very surprised if this game isn't fine. Green light, full on green light from DC on this one.
Just from what I read from a guy that you cannot see his information on Twitter. I read.
You're just going to mention all my Twitter enemies on this show. We got the Siege and Ross so far. I mean, it might be a long list if we're going to try to make mention of them all.
That's true. I'm going to have to keep going with that bit throughout the show. But yeah, basically, like, there could be rain randomly like throughout like the innings. And if it gets like delayed, then like it could get to a point where like then more rain shows up later on and messes up the pitchers. It's possible, but read up on it. That's all I'm saying. I think I'm with you. I think I'm just going to play them, but I'm going to circle back at 11. That's what I'm going to do. At 11 o'clock, my time, mountain time, I'm going to circle back and figure that out. So that's just what I'm doing. Just want to let people know that they should make sure to kind of do that.
I'm purposely not even going to check the weather again, just to spite you, man.
There we go. You're fighting Twitter enemies again. I guess I'm one of your Twitter enemies as well.
Yeah. It's a spicy day. Maybe I'll make some enemies today. So fire off some spicy tweets.
It's a great day where you can get drinking real early, DC. Like, you don't have to worry about lineups like after noon, basically. Like, you can get after it real early. So that's all.
It's on the schedule. I got to wait 2 hours and 10 minutes or so. But we'll get it going today for sure. That's Kansas City and Detroit. Let's go to the next game on the slate. Washington Nationals, Miami Marlins. Two lefties on the hill here. Patrick Corbin going for the Nationals. He is the cheapest starting pitcher, I believe, on the board today over on DraftKings. Maybe rightfully so, although you look at this Marlins lineup, maybe you could make a case for Patrick Corbin. I'll see if you want to make that case, Mr. Mangone. I will make the case myself. I'll leave Corbin to you. I'll make the case for Mr. Ryan Weathers. Again, a pitcher I was pretty high on coming into the year. He's been not bad. I mean, 14 fantasy points per game for a pitcher who has lived in the 5 to 6K range where he is today, 6,300. Gives you 90 to 100 pitches pretty much every time out. Has gotten through an average, of 5 2/3, something like that. And he's had pretty tough matchups too. I mean, last time out against Atlanta, he's faced the Yankees. Pittsburgh's been okay against lefties. So I actually think this is the best matchup of the year for Weathers. His stuff is holding up. I had some concern, if he would be able to hold that high velocity, but so far he has. He looks pretty good out there to me. And this is one I'm buying in on for sure. 6,300 for Weathers. That savings goes a long way, I think, on this slate. Either paying up for Skubal or paying up for bats. And this Nationals lineup's been pretty anemic against left-handed pitchers so far. At home in Miami, of course, helps as well. So sign me up for some Ryan Weathers today. And not going to play really any bats in Miami today. I don't think so. But what about the double pitcher combo, man? Going a little lefty on lefty action in Miami. We know we like pairing up pitchers in the same game sometimes. Any interest in a little Corbin Weathers action?
This game, for the most part, is a fade for me. Like, I understand your argument. I'm more sold on Weathers, I think. From
me too, by far, but
yeah, that's good for you to mention. I think, I'd rather, of course, and I think most people would rather play I don't know, Andrew Abbott, right, who's cheaper. Obviously, not an easy matchup, but then Patrick Corbin, obviously, but Weathers, I don't mind. That's all I'm going to say from this game. DC, you told me we got to keep it a little tight this show, so Ryan Weathers or bust in this game. Nothing else for me.
We're on target, man. We're over halfway through the show, and we're through 5 games. So yeah, we're keeping it moving. We both like to talk too much, but yeah, we'll get out of here before the hour is up, hopefully. All right, let's go to St. Louis and the New York Mets. Up next, 2 veterans here. Jose Quintana, lefty for the Mets, pitching opposite Lance Lynn. Big right-hander for the St. Louis Cardinals. Warm today over on the East Coast. Should be 70, 75 degrees in New York. Wind's blowing out, some humidity as well. So really, really good hitting environment for Citi Field. Probably the best that they've had so far. I think New York Mets, Baltimore Orioles, both have their best hitting weather of the young season, which I probably wouldn't be on either of these pitchers anyway, but that's enough to get me completely off them. X'd out of my pool today are both Quintana and Lance Lynn. Saw the Cardinals come alive a little bit. Goldschmidt had a big game yesterday. And I don't mind some of these right-handed power bats for the Cardinals against Quintana. It would be that 2 through 5. Can't play them all because there's 2 catchers in there, but Contreras, Arenado, Goldschmidt, Herrera, I think makes some sense. And I don't mind the Mets side of this one either. Lance Lynn, he's got a home run problem that's going to continue to plague him the rest of his career. I feel very confident in saying that. And the Mets have some power, obviously led by Pete Alonso. Lindor's been a little bit better recently. Nimmo, DJ Stewart's got some power, 2,800 out of the cleanup hole today for the Mets. So I'm not in love with the bats from this game, but I definitely prefer them over either arm. Where do you stand between the Cardinals and the Mets, Mangone?
Yeah, so I definitely don't play the Cardinals too often. You could make a case that against Quintana, they should be interesting. The wind is blowing out and it's warm, like you said, which definitely, I think this could be a sneakier spot for some bats.
Yeah.
Also, I know Lance Lynn, we can see really up and down performances from him at times. And these Mets, I think this game isn't a game that's going to go pretty overlooked. So I don't mind it in tournaments. It's not going to be a stack that like I am absolutely in love with. Like we talked about stacks earlier that we really liked. It's not going to be one that I absolutely love, but I just think it's an under-owned stack, right? If you're looking for a stack that will not gain a lot of ownership, that is probably better than people realize. I think that's an argument to make for this. And just like in the chat, Steven was like, why no love for the Marlins versus Corbin? Well, one reason why I didn't love them is I just think they're over-owned, right? Whenever anyone sees Patrick Corbin on the mound, they want to stack against them. I don't think it's a great spot for it. The Marlins aren't an amazing offense in general. I just think they're an overrated offense today. And I think this Mets and Cardinals game is a little bit of an underrated offense. So I don't really talk about these teams that much, but I think they're in the conversation, especially with the wind blowing out, the weather a lot nicer. And that Mets ballpark, it's not typically a hitter's park, but when it gets warm, it at least helps it out, right? And obviously context matters when talking about these ballparks and hitting environments. And it's definitely one of the better ones on this slate.
Yeah, the Marlins, worst team in the league so far against left-handed pitching and got a pretty weak lineup out there. Who do you really want to play on this Marlins team? For me, it's kind of hard to make a case for most of these guys. Brian De La Cruz, it would be by far my favorite guy swinging from the right side against Corbin, and it is Patrick Corbin. So, go at it. But I would actually rather play Corbin himself than play the Marlins, which tells you my opinion of that offense in general.
Yeah, and the other thing too that people I think forget sometimes, like this always happens, but like a good example is basketball the other day. Like Pascal Siakam, they talked about on the NBA show. Pascal Siakam was, 50 to 60%. And I know Big T was arguing, oh, you're definitely gonna be overweight because you play the chalk lot, JBC. And I was on the other side thinking, no, he'll be underweight. The reason why I'll be underweight is because Pascal Siakam is so highly owned. And I think this Marlins offense is going to be so highly owned that if you want, like, let's say you're playing 10 lineups and you want to get overweight on the Marlins, you're probably going to have to use like 4 or 5 teams to get overweight on this Marlins team. Like,
you really think that many people are playing the Marlins today?
I don't know. It's Patrick Corbin, right? Don't they always? When I run stuff, it looks like it. Let's see what Saber has. Let's just give it a check because I'm curious.
Maybe I'll dust off one of my old favorite tweets. Something like, the Marlins are 20% owned today. DFS will never die. I haven't busted that one out.
Yeah,
it went away when Game of Thrones went away. It was kind of like a Game of Thrones reference. But no,
yeah, so it's a good one to use if it happens, DC. So right now on Saber, on DK, we currently have, Nick Fortes is 12% on, or 11.52. I rounded up. So 12%. I'm just saying, couldn't you see them getting steamed up because it's Patrick Corbin? That's all I'm saying. When I ran stuff here, and again, I put my own mix in it, I'm just getting a lot more Marlins than, I'm just seeing a lot right now. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the chat can let me know if they think the Marlins are going to be high owned. But I feel like they are, and that's why I'm saying I'd rather get more exposure to the Cardinals and Mets, who people are probably not playing on this slate. But what do you think, DC?
The same Nick Fortes who has had 53 plate appearances so far this year. He's hitting 122, 0 home runs, 0 steals. He has managed 2 runs and RBIs, a -4 WRC plus. So legitimately maybe the worst hitter in the entire league so far. So
everyone loves a punt catcher. Everyone, they love a punt catcher.
Yeah, well, I'll leave Nick Fortes to you folks. No Nick Fortes for me, but it's gonna hit a home run, and that's gonna get me tilted early. So that is what it is. Anything else on St. Louis and the New York Mets? I know we got sidetracked a little bit there.
Yeah, we did get a little sidetracked, but the point I'm getting at with this Mets offense is again, it's going to be under-owned. We know Lance Lynn can blow up, even Quintana. He can have his walk issues at times. Just don't ignore it for sure. And these guys like Tyrone Taylor at 2.9, Harrison Bader 3.2. There's a lot of value throughout this lineup that allows you to get Lindor and Alonso on your team. We talk about it sometimes, like we talked about with the Dodgers. Sometimes it's hard to get Ohtani and Betts on your team. It's not that hard with this Mets team. So don't ignore it for sure.
Yeah. Brian De La Cruz, I think, is by far the Mets' best Miami bat to play. And then I think actually a pretty steep drop off after that. But given all this interest in Miami, I'll be going even lower on the field than I was planning to on the fish. You all are fish for playing the fish, by the way. Tampa Bay, Chicago White Sox are up next. I think another pretty interesting game here. Two righties on the hill. Zach Littell, Eric Fetty. Littell pitching for the Rays, Fetty for the White Sox. 8.5 total. Pretty warm in Chicago, too. We do looks like some crosswinds right to left. So wind shouldn't have too big of an effect on this one, negative or positive. White Sox lineup starting to get at least a little bit better. They got Eloy Jimenez back, maybe a week ago now. He's swinging a decent bat. Tommy Pham, they signed out of free agency, called him up after a little, just shaking the rust off at AAA. So, again, certainly a lineup that you want to pick on in general. It's not quite as bad as we saw. And I will also say the White Sox played a lot of games in just brutally cold weather. Saying too many good things about the White Sox. I think that's more good things about that I've said about them the entire year combined up to this point. I don't love Zach Littell even with this matchup, I guess is why I mentioned those things. And then Eric Fetty, I think might be my favorite low-owned pitcher of the day, assuming, Sabres got him around 5 to 10% owned, I think is fair for Eric Fetty, who has actually been pretty good this year, including last time out, 11 strikeout, 0 walk performance against the Twins. Had some kind of hopes for Fetty coming into the year. Didn't start off super well for him, but he's picked it up a little bit recently. And if you look at, the year-long numbers so far, they do look pretty good for Fetty. I don't think we've seen a Rays lineup yet. I'm pulling up. Don't believe we have one. No, not yet. There it is. Actually, no. I lied. There it is. Diaz, Palacios, Rosario, Paredes, Ramirez, Shenton, Meade, Siri, and Rene Pinto. I don't know, man. That doesn't look like a very good lineup to me. And I'll say this about Fetty as well. His big problem is against left-handed hitters. Only 2 of them in this lineup. The Rays have a weirdly high team total, sitting around 4.6 runs, which I think is going to hold Fetty's ownership in check. But man, I'm on the Fetty side of this matchup. I think he pitches pretty well here. I'm hoping the ownership stays low. The price is certainly fair at 7,500. I think the White Sox win this game against the Rays today, pull off the upset, get a little plus 150 or not. It's actually come down since I bet it, but plus 125 action. I still like that. I think they should be favored in this one. I do. White Sox over Rays. Hot take city, man. Gun. I don't know if you saw the Eric Fetty love coming. What do you got for us, Rays and White Sox?
This is amazing. We're on the same side. So last night before I went to bed, I bet White Sox plus 164, and I got that CLV. So when you get CLV DC, you can't.
I got it too. I think I hit him at like 152 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty good. It's already at plus 126 as well. I definitely do not mind Fetty here. I think you brought up some really good points that you obviously have to adjust the projection to get him in there. And this Rays team, anyone that plays the White Sox gets some ownership, right? Especially after yesterday. They absolutely smashed. Now, I think the lineup too, I think it's a lot worse. It sounds like people are saying Arozarena is not in the lineup. Yeah.
By the way, Arozarena has been absolutely dreadful. So I'm not sure that's the bump that, where people are trying to make it up.
That is fair, right? More of a name recognition there. But I do think this White Sox team, and not really saying the offense, I'm saying more so Fetty, and I think betting against the Rays. Like 2 teams I'm okay betting against and loading up on other teams on the slate are the Rays and the Marlins. I just think they are over-owned, for what they should be, because everyone sees the White Sox and they assume it. And yeah, I'm going to take my chances against it. I know I did this the last time when Mike Soroka was on the mound, but Eric Fetty is better than Mike Soroka.
Way better.
Yeah, I will go out and say that. And I knew it was a little bit of a gamble going against Mr. Soroka, but I am okay with taking this gamble here. So, hey, if it beats me, it beats me. So I'm going to be lower on the Rays for sure. Not dying to play White Sox here. Liddell's okay. I don't totally hate him, but I think there's just better pitchers on the slate.
Yeah, Sheets, Jimenez, maybe Tommy Pham, I think are all reasonable plays. Maybe that 2-3-4 stack in the middle of that White Sox lineup, but I wouldn't go too crazy with the White Sox. Generally a pretty good strategy, it seems like, so far this year. All right, 2 more games to talk about. We will, of course, do the stacks, pitchers, home runs, and plays of the day to end the show. Hit the like button if you haven't done so yet. It helps us bring you guys these shows free of charge 6 days a week on MLB and, of course, our other sports as well. And if you do want to join us, get the cores. Big day of sports ahead. Get all that information. Get to the winner circle. Promo code DC15. We'll get you 15% off your first weekly or monthly payment. All right, last 2 games of the slate. New York Yankees, Milwaukee Brewers. We got Marcus Stroman on the hill. Just always going to be a fade for me when he's 9,600 on DraftKings, given his general lack of strikeouts. I know he did get 9 of them last time out against Oakland. I would not expect that to continue against this Brewers team. I'm not really in on the Brewers either, to be honest, but kind of just a fade on both sides, which is often the case for me when Stroman is pitching. And then Tobias Myers pitching for Milwaukee. He's got some interesting traits to him, including a fastball that I think can generate some real swings and misses. I would probably be interested, or at least more interested, if he wasn't facing the Yankees, who are just super patient. Not a team I really like to pick on. They've got pretty much as good a lineup as they can throw out there on the field today. So I'm going to have a few sprinkles of Myers in my 150. He won't be on any of my 5 main teams. I'll have some Yankees as well. Yeah, I don't know. Just a game I won't generally have a whole ton of. But what about you, man, going Yankees and Brewers?
Yeah, I loved the Yankees yesterday. They were in my core and they absolutely smashed. Definitely, I want to be back on them. Can you tell me a little bit more about this Tobias Myers guy? Like, he's had 1 start so far, was not bad. Like, should we be not attacking him? Like, what's the take on Tobias Myers?
I mean, I don't know that much about him. He wasn't really a big prospect of note coming up, but he was pitching really well at the AAA level, generating a bunch of whiffs, and he does have some interesting stuff. Like I said, specifically his fastball has a lot of really good vertical movement profile, can kind of attack the top of the zone. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get some strikeouts here is kind of why I was interested in him. But that said, someone who pitches like that, who attacks the top of the zone with strike zones, if you're a little bit off, right, you leave it over the middle of the plate, can go south in a hurry. He reminds you a little, I'm not saying he's as good as Christian Javier, but a little bit of that type of profile of pitching where the strikeouts can be there, but I think he's going to give up a lot of fly balls, and that's a dangerous plan of attack against a powerful Yankees team.
Yeah, and the thing with Javier is dude, when it's on, it's fun to watch, but when it's off, it can be a disaster too.
Yeah, that's kind of why I think you can play both sides of this one a little bit.
Yeah, and I don't want to not play the Yankees, right? I know JT, one of his things is when a team kind of blows their wad, he likes to not be on the next time. I just like this Yankees offense right now and the way it's set up. They're playing good ball. So even Gleyber Torres found a way to clear the bases yesterday, and Gleyber Torres has been struggling a bit this year. Yeah. So I think I'm going to be in I'm in on both sides, right? We always say there's a game or 2 on each slate where you can say I'm in on both sides. I'm in on both sides, DC. So that's declared one game I'm definitely going to be getting exposure to that way. I know Marcus Stroman is not the sexiest roster. He has 9,600, which is kind of pricey. That's the one downside. If you're getting some, it's not the end of the world, but I bet if you're hand building, it's hard to just plug in a 9,600 Marcus Stroman. I will say that. So that's my overall thoughts though on this game. It's more so loading up on Yankees and a splash of this Myers guy.
All right. Final game of the slate, Cincinnati Reds, Texas Rangers. This one in Texas. We've got the lefty Andrew Abbott going for the Reds. Dane Dunning pitching for the Texas Rangers. As far as I have seen, no lineups out for either of these teams. I'm sure we'll get them in a little bit here. You distracted me, Jacob. You mentioned my true enemy, Jeff Mans. That's the one that really counts. Anyway, Reds and Rangers. I'm not on either of these pitchers. I know Abbott has had some good starts in his young MLB career, but I don't love it here against this Rangers team, assuming that the Rangers put out, a lineup that is decent enough, which I think they will. And then probably my favorite hitter on the slate, we'll get to that in a minute, but Elly De La Cruz. It's a common theme with me. Dude is just absolutely insane right now with the power speed combination. He's got 17 steals. He's on pace for like 115 steals on the year with power. And Dane Dunning gets absolutely crushed by left-handed bats, which is the better side of the plate that Elly swings from as well. Switch hitter is Elly De La Cruz. So for me, Cruz is the top overall hitter on this slate. And also really love Will Benson, assuming he's leading off power speed combinations. Both of those should play against Dane Dunning swinging from the left side. So kind of like that Ohtani Betts combo. I kind of want to play Benson and Elly De La Cruz together as much as I can. And I think they're going to do some damage against Dane Dunning. I think you can look at bats up and down the lineup, but I did want to make a specific mention for those two Reds, who I do think are among the very best hitters to play on this entire slate. Over to you, man. Going last game of the slate here, Cincinnati Reds, Texas Rangers.
Yeah, I don't know if Derek Carty is a mortal enemy of you, but he does hate Elly De La Cruz, right? He said he was overrated and absolutely smart.
That looks like a good take, Mr. Carty.
I love Carty, but he loves the shit on the prospects. But Elly has been smashing. It's definitely a really good spot for these Reds. You could make the argument the ballpark shift obviously isn't great, but I'm going to be on the Reds. It's hard to ignore them here. Reds are definitely going to be a team that I want to get exposure to. Now, the question is, what do we do with Andrew Abbott, right? Because I think Abbott is a really intriguing play on this slate. And I think for most slates, if Andrew Abbott's on the slate, I want to consider it, especially at 7,200. The problem I have is the Texas Rangers. Let's see if we do not have a lineup yet.
No.
I am hoping we can at least get like one of Seager or Semien to sit today. It would at least help, or Adalis. Like, just get one of them to sit to convince me to play him a little bit more. But I don't think Andrew Abbott's out of the conversation today. I know you didn't talk that much about him. Do you like Andrew Abbott? Because again, he's 7,200 DC. It's like these tempting prices that we've had on like Bailey Ober, Chris Paddock, right? We've had tempting prices. This is a different situation because he's not going against the Angels. He's going against the Texas Rangers. What's your thoughts on Abbott?
He's just not missing many bats this year. He's got a swinging strike percentage on the year of 6.6%, which is probably, bottom 5 all starting pitchers in the league. That's backed up by a strikeout rate that has plummeted. And he was kind of a pitcher who relied on those swings and misses. I kind of think the league has figured out Andrew Abbott to some extent. And the more I kind of talk about that, the more I might want to get on some Rangers bats. I do want to see their lineup first, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, so the reason I asked is people will play Andrew Abbott today. They won't they're going to be baited into that price tag. Like myself alone, I was looking at it and I was like, man, the price is worth considering. If you look at projections, so let's see what Saber has. So Saber has Abbott as the 5th best projection on the slate, and he's at a 22% ownership. So listen, I'm not saying he's going to be 40%, but he's going to have some ownership. And the common theme of this slate I've noticed is there's these offenses like that I think people are getting on that are just not great offenses. And then there's these elite offenses like the Dodgers and Rangers who are not going to have ownership that we should maybe get on. So I'm with you. I think you've sold me to flip a little bit the other way and kind of get excited about Texas. I do want to see the lineup, though. I think that's going to be important.
I'll give you a hot take, man, going. Andrew Abbott is not only outscored by Eric Fetty, Ryan Weathers, and Patrick Corbin. All three of them outscore Mr. Andrew Abbott tonight. So there you go.
There you go. Go hit that parlay. Maybe the Rubio Dime Sportsbook is open. Rubio loves to offer some action sometimes.
There we go. Yeah. Let's get to the fun stuff. We'll do favorite overall stack, favorite contrarian stack. I will go first. Favorite overall stack on the slate. I'm going to go with the Baltimore Orioles against Paul Blackburn. I like lefties against him. I love that hitting weather in Baltimore. And I like the matchup against the A's bullpen once it gets there as well. Contrarian stack. I'm going with the Dodgers against Kevin Gausman. I know they're expensive, but I don't think anybody is playing them. I did mention specifically Betts and Ohtani. I do like the cheaper pitching, obviously, a little bit today, so kind of can fit these guys in. But yeah, give me, two of the very, very best hitters in the game at what I think will be extremely low ownership. What about you, man? Going favorite overall stack, favorite contrarian stack?
Yeah, favorite overall stack. I'm gonna go with the Yankees. I'm gonna go back to I know they just had a huge game, but I still want to keep playing them. And the Yankees are that team. Like when they're hot and they're seeing it, like good things happen. So I'm gonna go back with the Yankees for top overall stack. The contrarian one. Let's see. Let's go with the Mets. So we'll go double New York today. We'll go with the Mets as the contrarian stack that I definitely want to be overweight on. That I don't think a lot of people will be overweight on.
Love it. Love the Mets there. Yeah, we got Jake's Whales, Indians versus Braves for all the TPs. Yes, that makes some sense. Let's go with our most important pitcher on the slate. Close for me between a few guys here, but I will go ahead and go with Mr. Ryan Weathers. Looks like an extreme hitter's ump in Miami, which is not great, but you know what? I'm going to stick with it. Matchup is good enough, and I'm a believer in Ryan Weathers in general. He's also very cheap. Should come in relatively low owned as well. So I'll go with Ryan Weathers. What about you, Mangone? Your most important pitcher on this slate?
Yeah, DC, you have sold me on Fetty for sure.
Yeah, he was my other choice, but I figured you might want him, so I left him for you.
Yeah, I mean, if not, I had some others, but Fetty's definitely the guy you sold me on for sure. Like, I was getting a little bit, but I want a lot more. And not just that, like, again, I like when people will play the Rays. Like, they smashed yesterday. People are going to play Palacios in that 3-hole or 4-hole again. Like, he's cheap, but people are just going to play him again. I know Fetty, he's been good throughout the year, right? And it's like, it's not like it's just an out there performance. He's been good throughout the year. He was the guy that was in the KBO, right? And like changed up how he pitched and everything. Like it's just, there's a lot of signs that trend that this is not the same guy. You know, you can't pull up the fan graphs from 4 years ago and quote that because it's not real data anymore. It's just not. He's a different guy. So I'm in on Fetty, 7,500. He will probably be a core pitcher for me today.
He will be in my core along with Mr. Weathers. Those will be my two highest owned pitchers today. Feel pretty confident that's going to stay the case. Obviously, a little bit to go before lock here, but I don't really see myself moving off that one today. Catchers that stand out. Yes. Rushman, I believe both Contreras brothers, like you said, look good. And then I would throw in Salvador Perez off the chalky Tarek Skubal. Been crushing the ball this year. And yeah, the BVP is there as well for Mr. Salvador Perez. Let's get to a home run call today. Mangone, ready to go first on this one?
Yeah, I can, but I want to mention this. You gave the green light on weather, DC. I'm going to give the green light on the Chicago weather. I think that's perfectly fine. I don't see a lot of worries on it. So that's my plan. I am going to stick with that. A home run call. Okay, so let's see. I kind of want to go with, here, we'll go with, let's go with Juan Soto. Juan Soto takes 1 yard. He's been hitting a pretty good bat throughout this season, and he keeps it going. He didn't hit one yesterday, but he gets his today. Juan Soto will be he'll be my home run call today.
Yeah. Weather in both Chicago and Detroit looks completely fine for me. So both those games get the green light as far as I'm concerned. Home run call for me. We'll go with the milkman, Mr. Colton Cowser, down there in the 7-hole for Baltimore against Paul Blackburn, obviously very high on the Orioles in general. And the fact that he's kind of buried way down there, I think makes some sense. It'll hold ownership down at least a little bit on Colton Cowser. All right, we have done it. We are to the play of the day. Is it cheating? I don't care if it's cheating. I'm going with my man, Ellie De La Cruz. Matchup just too good here. And you get to own Derek Carty as well. It's a little cherry on top of an Ellie De La Cruz Sunday. So Ellie De La Cruz, my overall play of the day. Mangone, your play of the day before we get on out of here.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a low-owned one that's part of, and I believe it'll be, he's part of the red stack as well, DC. Bottom of the order guy. He hit 2 home runs for me once. It's Nick Martini. Let's go with him. He's got power, and Dunning is the guy with a nice lefty that's got some power and pop that can get the job done. So we're going with Nick Martini as my low-owned play of the day.
If he hits one, I'll drink a martini just for you, Mango, to celebrate your play of the day. That'll do it. Any NBA calls, Mango? And otherwise, maybe you're going to wise up and bet on the Wolves today. I'm not sure, but any NBA calls for the people before we get out of here? We got 3 minutes before the top of the hour.
Okay. So no, I'm not betting against the Wolves. Let's see. I mean, I don't love it a lot betting today wise, but I know Mitchell Robinson's playing today, even though he was in that walking boot. So that was news that just came across.
That surprised me. I was planning to load up on some Hartenstein, but maybe not anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that's definitely going to shift the NBA slate a little bit. So I think people were waiting for that. I'm curious what happens with this stupid Milwaukee Bucks team, because I'm not totally looking forward to that, because it feels like a stupid regular season game because they don't have anyone. But if you told me to bet on one side today, I would just bet on Dallas, right? I'm not buying the Knicks today as much. I feel like, listen, I have the Knicks to win the series. I do. But I'm worried Embiid's going to get all the calls. It's just like, it feels like a gross side to be on. So I think that's going to be one of those 6 or 7 game series. So don't bet on the Knicks. Bet on the Mavericks, and I guess bet on the Sixers. The only problem with the Sixers is I bet that line's a little too far than I'd like, so I'd rather probably take the money line. But that's kind of my takes. If I made one bet today, and I don't have a lot of bets today, it's probably Luka, and we'll see. If I have a prop on Twitter, I'll post it. I haven't looked yet because nothing's updated, and it's just we need time to see what all the lineups are going to be. And who knows? Now that the Mitchell Robinson stuff came through, maybe I'll find a prop in this early game and post it on Twitter.
My NBA take, and the one I'm loading up with, almost got to the top last night with some Lakers Nuggets stacks, but I think it's the Pacers Bucks stack that you want today. I think the Bucks put up a fight in this one, and if they do, they're just so shorthanded that I think you're going to see a lot of their guys get there. They're going to be popular, I'm sure, right? The Bucks will be, but
the big debate so yesterday, one of the rules I set was like max of 3 of every single team. And a lot of the winners had 2-mans on the teams. This is not that slate, right? Like, I was trying to figure out how many Bucks are the max I can play. And I think I have to put it at 4. 4. I think one reason why is I was just looking at the guards, they're just too cheap, right? You got Green and Andre Jackson are both really cheap. You have Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis. Brook Lopez will pop in projections. I'm not saying he should play him, but he will pop, and he probably has to play. So, and I think the Pacers aren't that great where they're going to blow them out, right? I think some people have the take that they're just going to blow them out. Listen, man, they'll next man up it. Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis. That core is good enough to keep them in the game. If Chris Middleton's not hitting shots, sure, right? It's just it could be absolute curtains for him, but Bobby Portis could have a big game too. He hasn't had a big one yet, so we'll have to see.
Love it. That'll do it for this show. Thanks for watching, everybody. We really do appreciate it. Hit the like button on your way out if you haven't yet done so. There'll be no NASCAR takes on my show. Jake Swales, you can get on out of here with that suggestion. Never going to happen.
There's a NASCAR show coming up. You can get them there. I have none. I'm making my teams literally 30 minutes before. I'm going to read the content and then run everything. Nothing from me.
No NASCAR takes when DC is hosting this show. That's a promise I will always keep. But we'll get out of here. Got, of course, lineups to make, all that good stuff. We'll be back at the normal time tomorrow, 4:45 Eastern time. Good luck to everybody. Hope we see some RPS logos up top today, and hope you all enjoy your Sunday. Thanks for watching. For Mangone, I'm Draft Cheat. We're out of here.